First, I'll read our mission statement. At Center Grove, we develop knowledgeable, confident, and responsible citizens through inspirational and innovative learning opportunities. Now, I would ask for Board Member Joe Hubbard tonight to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Joe. Has everyone on the board had the opportunity to review the proposed agenda?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander and Mr. Russell. All those in favor of adopting the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
The first item on the agenda, we have a special award tonight to give to some high school, I would say seniors, but I think they graduated. So soon to be college freshmen. Should I do it from over there?
Yeah, that'd probably
Yeah.
be good. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we have a video too, so we'd like to play that, yeah.
Stacy, why don't you go ahead? All right, I'm sorry. Dan, go ahead and start with the video.
It's actually in the script for you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hi,
What do I
everyone.
get for not reading the
I'm
script?
Joe Stinziano, Executive Vice President here at Samsung Electronics. I want to congratulate the Center Grove High School team for your achievements as a Samsung Solve for Tomorrow National Finalist. Not only have you won $50,000 in technology and classroom supplies for your school, but you also represented the entire state of Indiana in the competition. You should be so proud of this accomplishment. It was great to see you all work so hard to help the Greenwood community with your project. You all make me confident that our future is in good hands. Keep up the outstanding work, and congratulations again.
And that was Mr. Joe Stinziano from Samsung, described to me as the top person for Samsung in North America. So he took the time to congratulate you for that, so you should feel good. And I also want to give a special thanks to Mike Graham, who has a couple Center Grove daughters. He helped us get that video for you. So if I could we have Mehek Agrawal? I would say Madison Hamill, but she's not here. Mr. Bob Hamill's here in her stead. And Athula Nair, please come up the front. Just a little bit about the Shining Star Award. It recognizes an employee, student, or community member who's gone beyond the expected to make Center Grove a better place. To be eligible, the nominee must have exhibited actions that go beyond his or her normal duties every day and everyday responsibilities. The nominee must demonstrate that he or she went above and beyond in 4 areas. They must make a difference in the life of someone else. They must foster a more productive workplace or school community. They must encourage teamwork and collaboration within the Center Grove Community School Corporation or community. And they must initiate a positive change. I nominated seniors, I need to say now graduates. Graduates Mehik Agrawal, Madison Hamill, and Athula Nair for the Shining Star Award. With the direction of the teacher, Andrea Tivan. Was Andrea able to join us?
Yep, right here.
Would you come and join them? Thank you. These ladies joined forces to enter the 10th annual Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest. The contest is a nationwide competition which encourages students in grades 6 through 12 to creatively use STEM skills to solve a community challenge. Their project addressed the improper sealing of infrastructure like mobile homes in areas that may lack access to rudimentary facilities and comforts. Their creation utilizes an expanding material that uses exothermic reactions to release heat and enhance heat retention. The material can be used to adhere to a wall and as a cheap blanket to improve insulation and reduce heat loss. I was interested to find that the Samsung competition drew 2,000 entries. And from those 2,000 entries across the country, there were 4 rounds of judging that lasted 6 months. Mehik, Madison, and Athula finished in the top 20 of the national finalists. They plan to move forward with their pursuit of a patent for their project and have an interest from the No Place to Call Home Agency, which provides assistance to families facing homelessness in Johnson County. These students have been at the state and national levels what Center Grove is and what Center Grove students are capable of. They've been impressive leaders for our high school and community and our state as they exceeded even their own expectations. In this contest, they developed a product that could change lives. I'd like to thank and honor Mahik, Madison, and Athula with the Shining Star Award, and also like to thank their teacher, Andrea Teven, for encouraging them to enter and pursue this. So I have a little token of our appreciation and Mr. Hamill, if I know you're trying to tape all this, so I'll just bring yours over to you to hand to Madison. Mahik? We're not shaking hands.
Mrs. Tevan, how long has this class been going?
This class, our first class, I think, was 2008 for the biomed program.
For biomed, okay.
Mom has a picture.
Ladies, I have a question. Are you guys gonna continue to study together at the next level, or are you guys going separate directions?
We're going separate directions. I'm going to Purdue and IU.
Boy, you
So-
couldn't get any more separate, could you?
So not only they're going separate directions, they're going to be rivals. And Bob Madison is currently.
Wisconsin.
Big Ten, all the way.
Okay, well, these
Well,
are all
Big
Big
Ten.
Ten schools. All right. No, very cool. Nice work. So, what
Congrats.
happens with the project now? Has like the project ended, or will it continue?
We can continue as far as we want to take it.
Okay.
So they're gonna get some collegiate skills that are just gonna add to the project, and then who knows, sky's the limit.
Very cool.
So patent it would be probably
The
the next.
next step?
That'd be really cool.
No, very cool.
They did the last half of the project on Zoom, so, you know, even in different colleges, they can use Zoom.
Right.
So that's it.
Very cool. Well,
Great job.
it's only 90 minutes from IU to Purdue, so. There's a reason I know that, but I'll tell you later.
I remember that drive.
Congratulations, and thank you for the $50,000 going to the school too. We really appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
I don't want that to go unsaid. Thank you very much.
Your eyes might have changed. And feel free to go. You guys are fine. Thank you.
And as Mr. Hamill told me, Madison Hamill is not blowing this off. She's a full-ride scholarship volleyball athlete and has her first practice for Wisconsin volleyball this evening. So,
Otherwise, you would have been on FaceTime, and I likely would have been standing up there
Yeah.
with her as an athlete.
we'll wish her the best
Thank you very much.
and congratulate her for us.
Absolutely. Thank you guys very much. Thank you very much.
Hello from all of us.
All right, thank you, everyone. That's a wonderful achievement. We always like to see our students doing great things. Next, we have time for public comments. I don't believe anyone signed up for public comments today, so we'll move down to consent items. I'm assuming the board has had a chance to review the consent items. Are there any questions for anyone on any of the consent items? If not, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I guess I have a question on the agenda.
No field trips for holiday.
Thank you, Pam. I didn't see it when I reviewed
What
it.
the board docs is correct.
Okay,
No
thank
field
you.
trips.
So with no field trips, I assume there's just none of them for us to approve right now? Okay, Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Alexander. I missed that. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The consent agenda has been approved.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody special?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Next, I move to action items. First action item is the consideration of the Simon Youth Foundation Memorandum of Understanding. And it's my understanding Mrs. Nora Hoover has a presentation to give us relating to the Youth Foundation Memorandum of Understanding. Mrs. Hoover, I turn it over to you. It's a longer walk than normal when we put you on the back instead of the front.
Yes, it is. It's a different perspective from back there. And you make presentations sound so formal. I really just have some things to say. And the memorandum of understanding up there is a lot of legal things that our council and the Simon Youth Foundation Council fought over and got perfect just so it would be good for tonight. So tonight the district is seeking approval to partner with the Simon Youth Foundation to support our high school alternative academy. This partnership affords unique opportunities to our current academy students and faculty without interrupting any of our normal day-to-day operations or our mission and vision. Simon Youth Foundation is a national nonprofit headquartered here right here in Indianapolis. Their mission is to help students graduate no matter their personal circumstances and provide opportunities for students to pursue their dreams through education. Our partnership with Simon Youth Foundation will provide annual opportunities for grants to support our program, professional development for teachers and their coordinator, and educational travel and scholarships for our students. Our legal counsel has worked with Simon Youth Foundation and recommends the Memorandum of Understanding as presented tonight. Upon approval and finalization of this partnership, we request modifying the name from Center Grove Alternative Academy to the Center Grove Simon Youth Academy. And not in the notes, but I wanted to share that we really like that name because it helps us get away from the word alternative, because we don't want it to feel like that diploma is any different than any other Center Grove diploma. And I think a change of name really says a lot to that. And so it was a nice opportunity to make that change too with this partnership.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Hoover as it relates to the Simon Youth Foundation Memorandum of Understanding?
Well, it's not so much questions. As you know, I work with that group and have talked to the staff. In simple terms, to me, it's kind of a logical next step of the academy from where it started to where it's built up to now. It's now just to take another professional step with it. Obviously, resources can improve for it with this move. So they seem very happy about this possibility and this memorandum.
Thank you, Jack.
They were already able to take advantage. Both of our teachers and our coordinator this year were invited as guests to their annual conference, their alternative school conference, I believe in Texas. So knowing we were interested, I think they were showing them what all, giving them the opportunity to see what it can mean to be a partner with them. So they have started to get some of the benefits of that already. If you approve it tonight, they can have some more.
I like
No pressure.
None.
I like that term partner. There's no loss of control on our part at all, partnering with them. Just resources, more resources.
Well, I wasn't on the fence before, but I definitely don't want to take opportunities away, so I'm definitely in favor of now. Can I have a motion as it relates to the Simon Youth Foundation Memorandum of Understanding?
I move that we approve the Memorandum of Understanding with the Simon Youth Foundation.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander and Mr. Russell. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you.
Now I believe we move on to something, I think we're making it so we don't have to make the long walk. Now we're moving on to the Community Health Internship Program. memorandum of understanding. I won't make this one as formal, Mrs. Hoover, if you'd like to tell us about it.
Yeah, thanks for not building that up too much. Both great things, but I didn't present necessarily. The district is seeking approval tonight for another partnership with the Community Health Internship Program for our work experiential program that services our special education students ages 18 to 22. The program, called CHIPS, will allow more Center Grove students to participate. That's the first bonus. And it will also provide a more diverse work experience for our students than the partnership that we currently have with another entity. Allie Chance, who's our Director of Special Education, has thoroughly investigated the benefits of partnering with Community Hospital and recommends this change to better meet the needs of our students.
Thank you. Do I have any questions or comments as it relates to the CHIPS memorandum of understanding? Can I hear a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the memorandum of understanding with the Community Health Partnership Program for students.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Mrs. Toomey. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to say a lot of work goes behind these MOUs, and I know you know that. So thank you for trusting us to go out and look for better partnerships for our students.
And I think everyone benefits. I mean, let's continue to do that, and we'll continue to look at them, review them, and
It's worth the
approve 'em.
work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone that helped. Next, we'll consider the 2020-2021 let me say that again. The 2020-2021 student handbook, and I believe Dr. Long is going to talk to us about that tonight.
If we're gonna sit in the back, we should have walk-up music, shouldn't we? Baseball.
You want to pick it too? You want to pick your music?
Yes, yes. Next time, I'll get some music and we'll do a walk-up. Thank you. Before we get started and before we get to review these, I just want to make sure the community and the board's aware that while we're asking you to approve our student handbooks tonight, we also realize that there could be some changes passed down from the Department of Education that would require us to make some kind of amendment later on. We're kind of forced by time to get these printed and ready to go. So if we have to make changes, and we have before, we'll make sure that we get that out, get it on the website, and message that to parents and to students, and make sure that the schools talk about it. But right now, these are the changes that were recommended by the buildings and their administrative team. But we may end up having to make some kind of changes. The first, and just another thing, when I sent these to Pam, one of the transportation handbook stuff, I skipped getting that in there. She added it later, and you guys should have gotten a notice that it was on there. There's not very much changes to it, but I'll go over those too. So I just wanted to make sure you're aware of.
That one of the board docs emails we got same thing.
Yeah, that there was an update to that, yeah. So the first one is from Amy Norman, our Director of Health Services, and it's really just for secondary students. It adds the second hepatitis A vaccine for all students in grades 8 through 11. It makes us in compliance with the Indiana State Department of Health for the 2021 school year. So that's the only change from the Health Services Department. From the high school, they've added just a few things. One is about departure from campus. It tells them that we're a closed campus and that you can't leave the building without consent. I think that was a given that just wasn't really in writing, so we wanted to make sure people understood that.
And just for clarity, I'm certain that without consent, those that are taking global campus obviously
Sure,
can
they-
leave early because that's consent.
Right, they have the way, C9 kids and
Yeah. So this
all
is
that.
just, as you said, putting in a policy. If you're supposed to be there for class, you show up, you're
Right,
not
you
leaving
don't
and
get to
coming
leave
back.
just because you're ready to go.
Thanks.
The,
Or should I thank Dr. Henderson for this one?
I think our deeds probably.
So they just wanted to add a section about their STAR program. They added AIM to it. It's always improving myself, and it's just kind of just a definition of what that is. That's a new program that they're going to start this year.
That was tested last year, right?
Yeah, we started last
Just started.
Okay. It was in the pilot phase.
Yeah, so this year it's in the handbook, or will be if you approve it. Another one, kind of probably one of those no-brainers that you always think about, and I know when I was a principal, there's always something that you think, it's probably in the handbook, and then you realize it's not. But we wanted to add to the dress code that not to bring blankets into the building, that they should be left at home or in a student's vehicle. I know that sounds funny.
When I saw this, I almost sent you an email, Dr. Anderson, like, really?
Oh, yeah.
It's a
A
thing.
lot of them, they'll walk in with them around them and carry
Well, I
them
know
around
when
with
I
them.
was a principal, I had a kid walking through the cafeteria without shoes on, and I said, hey, where are your shoes? She said, it doesn't say in the handbook I have to wear shoes. So it did the next year, because that's how things happen.
All right.
They
The
won't
other,
wear jackets in, but they'll wear blankets in.
the other section is under detentions. It allows a guardian to determine whether they serve a before-school or after-school detention. And if they come to school to eat breakfast, they'll allow them to eat breakfast while they're serving their before-school detention. So that's it for the high school. The middle school just has some clarifications on dress code mostly. It's usually, this one's about leggings. It says that students who wear leggings or tights alone must have a top that completely covers their backside. I know, it's update a policy about holes in their pants, and as long as they meet dress code, it just aligns us with the rest of the surrounding schools. The two middle schools want to try having all students wear their student identification during the day. I think that's probably a good idea. It's something that they stress in school safety meetings all the time, so I think that's a good way to give that a try in the middle schools, like on a lanyard. Yeah, they're.
Do they do it in the high schools or not?
They do not right now. We've talked about it all the time, and I think the issue is, what do you do with the kid that doesn't have one, and are you missing instructional time where you're having them get a new one or do all that other stuff? And with 2,800 kids, made it a little bit of a challenge. But I think this is a good way to get started. If it's successful in the middle schools, it might be something that we roll out in the high
And
school.
correct me if I'm wrong, at least at the middle school level, that's how they do their lunch, is what their student.
It is at the high school
It's in
too,
the high
yeah.
school too, yeah.
But you can also, yeah, you can, if you know your PIN number, you can.
But obviously with COVID and common touch surfaces.
Correct.
Kids are gonna have to move to IVs as opposed to perhaps pin
Pin
pads, so.
If the high school believes it's necessary for that at the high school and you want to propose it at a later date, I think I would
We'll
support that,
provide the lanyards.
especially as a
I believe
COVID
it's an idea.
issue.
Right.
Lanyard.
Yes.
Okay.
The other change is to remove one sentence about water or any liquid outside of the cafeteria. They want to drop the water may be only in a clear container with a lid. They just want to put a period after water is the only liquid outside of the cafeteria. This is a new one, dual participation. It aligns with the high school rule, and it's adopted from the IHSA rule for students that are involved in an activity outside of school, but also on the team or on the school activity. They've got to sign an agreement that the school activity takes precedence, takes a priority, and talks about, and it's true that it's a when you're representing your team, you know, in your school, you should make that a priority. So it lays out how to address those conflicts when they come, and tells parents what they need to do and what the penalty is if there is a violation of that. And there's a signature page where students understand that as well. They didn't want to limit that, but they want to make sure that, you know, if you take one of the 10 spots on the basketball team and then you don't show up because you're doing something else, then so they added that. Walking to and from school is prohibited. We talked about this last year at Middle School North with the issue of students crossing the roads. There aren't any sidewalks that lead to Middle School North. We had some issues with parents complaining that kids were dangerously crossing both Morgantown Road and Fairview Road. And so we started this last year, not allowing students to walk to and from the middle school. They just wanted to add that to the handbook. There aren't any crosswalks or sidewalks that lead to Middle School North.
But that is just middle school north, right?
Right,
I
correct.
was gonna say, because they walk from middle school central.
Yeah, it's
across
just
Jones Crossing,
just middle school north.
right in the middle of traffic.
Well, there's a crosswalk there. Hopefully they're pushing the
Well, I'm
button.
talking about the walking down Stones
Oh,
Crossing. though,
right.
with-
And then for middle school north only as well, they're going to implement a Google form hall pass system. So it says that they have to sign out and sign in via an electronic pass system. And that's about school safety too, to make sure you know where kids are, how long they were out of class, and when they come back. So that's it for the the middle schools. The transportation changes. This is probably another safety rule. We used to say that we would only drop off kindergarten and preschool parents, or students, in the presence of an adult during the first semester, but we're taking that through the whole school year. We don't want to let anybody off the bus, especially at that age, without an adult standing at the door or at the bus stop. Made the cell phone policy more consistent, let the discretion of the driver, they let students listen as long as they've got earbuds or something in, but it's still no videotaping or taking pictures, and that's consistent with the rest of the inside the schools as well. And then just a small little change is it tells them that the drivers will inspect the buses at the end of the route. If something's left, they'll take it to the office and call. Sometimes parents will call the transportation and be frustrated that the bus driver won't stop right then and find out whether or not. So we're just kind of clarifying that we look at the end of every route, and if we find something, it'll be in transportation at the end of the day. So that's it for the handbook changes. We're recommending approval of all those suggestions from the administrative teams in all those areas.
Do we have any idea from the state when they may be coming down with some additional things for us to consider or forced to be implemented as it relates to our
No,
current COVID situation?
We talked on Monday about our plan, and we're like, well, this is a pretty good plan today, and then by Tuesday, we get guidance that changes our plan a little bit, and so we feel like for June 16th, we've got a pretty good plan. We'll see if it's still a good plan on July 16th and as we go along. But no, there's nothing, I mean, we don't anticipate anything coming down the pike, but we just wanted to make everybody aware that this isn't the final, may not be the final version of the student handbooks. Hopefully it is, but.
And we do this every year.
Sure,
I mean, this is,
right.
policies need to be updated. Let's
Sure,
do
and if
this like
something
normal.
happens, we ask you guys to, we've done it before where we've
Knowing that-
modified the student
Knowing that we
handbooks.
may have an addendum,
Right.
but great. That's all I had. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Joe.
I've got two. The water bottles, going to a colored water bottle or a non-clear water bottle, are you guys concerned about that because then now teachers can look at those water bottles and see that's not a clear liquid. Before they could do that, now if you're changing to a non-clear.
No, it just says water is the only liquid allowed outside the cafeteria. They're not changing the color of the water bottle.
So the clear bottle is still staying in the statement?
Right, yes.
Okay.
It looks like it's being.
Oh, no, they want to remove the clear container because I guess some water bottles aren't clear. So, yeah, I don't think they're worried about what's coming out of the cafeteria. It's probably more that what comes in.
What's coming
In
in
the
the
morning.
morning?
And that's a middle school.
Right,
Right.
correct.
Second question I have is, you made some changes to the dress code, like if they wear the leggings, they have to have shirts long enough, or with the pants with the holes in it, things like that. Is this something that you're gonna try to get out to parents? I'd say for parents to go out and buy
Buy
school
clothes.
and then now the handbook comes out and the rules have changed.
We usually try to get something out highlighting the changes to the parents ahead of, you're right, we've done that before where I just did all my back-to-school shopping and now I can't find what you're saying I can only wear. So, yeah, we'll try to get that out to parents right away. I mean, really, the legging thing has not really changed. They've asked them to not wear leggings before, and
I'm more talking about the pants with the holes
Well,
and stuff.
yeah, and that's
As a parent,
really-
I feel victim to that. I bought my kids some pants and then come to find out they couldn't wear them, so.
yeah.
Just as long as it's out long enough before school starts that they.
Well, once we approve these tonight, is there any reason we can't get these changes sent out and
within the next week or
No,
prior
I'm
to
looking at
July
Stacy,
1?
So she's not looking, so yeah, sure.
That's all I got.
She didn't have anything
So,
to do.
I guess, and shame on me when I reviewed this, I missed the walking policy for middle school north. I'm gonna approve this tonight, but I'm gonna have a whole bunch of questions around that. I think there's some benefits to allowing the kids to get a little exercise, so I can't believe we can't come up with a way to
Well,
do this safely.
And I think I'll have to go back and look. I think we talked about this in one of the board meetings before, and the problem was some of the parents wanted us to put a crosswalk in across Fairview Road, and that wasn't our prerogative, and the Johnson County Highway said, we're not putting one in. And then other parents were saying, well, it's not safe, kids are running across and it's unsafe. And the same thing at the top of the hill.
I understand. I think there's some alternatives. So we can, and shame on me for missing it before now, so.
Any other comments or questions?
I'm just questioning, what recourse do we have if parents refuse to get their kids' shots? I'm talking about the kindergarten and first grade, and then these now middle school shots that are recommended.
So
Do we have recourse?
The state allows parents to ask for a religious waiver or a medical reason to not get your shots or your immunizations. So if they provide one of those, there's nothing we can do. If they don't have one of those, we've typically given them a deadline. The state says you can do it after so many weeks of school. And we've tried really hard. We don't want kids to miss school, so we've tried really hard to say, hey, you got to get your shots by this week. And we've worked with them and helped them find places to get shots at low or no cost to do that. And Mrs. Norman works really hard to make sure that we don't really end up excluding kids. But that's the ultimate. If you refuse to do that and you don't have a waiver or anything, then we would exclude you from school because you don't have your immunization.
That's my concern, is how it could spread. Yeah.
So there's places out there that if the parents could afford the shots,
There are-
Yeah,
you guys have
yes.
some resources.
Hmm.
There are some
Yes.
clinics that can do it for free.
Right,
Right.
And we share that in every communication we send to parents.
when they can't, yeah.
Any other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the changes to the 2021 secondary student handbooks and the transportation handbook as presented.
Thank you.
May I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander and Mr. Hubbard. So it was Joe, not Jack? Okay. I apologize, I looked down. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you.
Next, we move to consideration of an interlocal agreement with the Johnson County and Town of Barboursville. Once again, Dr. Long will lead us through.
So when we first got our permit from the town of Barboursville to build Walnut Grove Elementary School, their requirement was that we would improve County Road 450. That's the road that's east of the elementary school. So we've been working on this agreement for probably 3 years or so. Mr. Alexander and Dr. Arkanoff met with the town of Barboursville to discuss. The agreement is that the three entities, the town of Barboursville, the Johnson County Highway Department, and the Center Grove Community Schools would share those costs, and it's outlined in the interlocal agreement. All three attorneys for the boards have reviewed this. I think the town of Barboursville was supposed to approve theirs this month as well. I think the county may have already done that. If you've been there, they've been doing work on 450, so hopefully they'll get that done. Remember, our goal last year was to have it done before the start of school. I should have been more specific about which year the start of school was, but they should be done before the start of this year's school.
So they'll get this done the next 60 days?
I think so, yeah.
Great.
The other thing I wanted to say, we set aside money, we knew because of their requirement, we set aside money out of the bond for the construction of the elementary to do this. And then we had some extra money from the asphalt, or the paving company that didn't do some of the work, and so we offered that, and because then they would do all of 450 instead of our people doing parts of it and their people doing parts of it. So it's under one contract, and it was let through the Johnson County Highway Department.
Thank you, Dr. Long. Do we have any questions or comments for Dr. Long?
Just that this is, you and I talked earlier, this is a final situation. As you know, they kept coming back to us and stuff, but this ties it down.
It will be once we approve it.
Right.
Well, yes. So don't disapprove.
Any other comments or questions? I guess I just want to thank you, Dr. Long. I know this took a lot of time and effort and a lot of patience. And also thank Barboursville and the county for coming to an agreement with us. This is for everybody's benefit. When we built that school, as you said, it was part of the budget to put money aside to get this accomplished.
Right.
And I just thank you for your patience.
Oh, thanks.
You didn't hear.
I did. I had lots of-
I wasn't going to go there.
Will you update us once we find out the other two agencies?
When they approved them,
When
yes,
they
sir.
approve this?
Which would be this month.
Should be that.
Any other questions or comments? Can I hear a motion?
Sorry, I just lost it. I move that we approve the interlocal agreement between Johnson County, can't get board docs, and the town of Barboursville as presented.
Although, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander, Mr. Russell. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you.
Now we move to the approval of the school meal prices for 2020 and 2021. And Dr. Long, you're on the,
Thank you.
on the spot again.
This will seem like it comes from the Department of Redundancy Department, because the State Board of Accounts requires you, the school board, to approve meal prices even when they don't change. So Mrs. Maples is not recommending any changes for the 2020-21 school year. So these are the same lunch prices that we had last year. We're asking the board to approve them again for this year.
So if it's the Department of Redundancy Department, do we have to vote twice?
Yes, I think so.
As long as it's the same vote.
Do we have any comments or questions?
Well, I've always wondered something. Why do adults have to pay more? For instance, at the high school, why does a high school teacher have to pay more than a high school student?
Because of the reimbursement that we get from the federal government. It's for students, it's not for adults.
We don't get compensated for the adult
Right.
meal.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Can I hear a motion?
Mr. President, I approve the motion to approve the school meal prices for 2020 and 2021.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Toomey and Mr. Alexander. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the consideration of bids for food services, and we're going to hear from somebody different this time. It's going to be Dr. Long.
Thank you. Again, part of the Department of Redundancy Department. The Center Grove Community School Corporation belongs to the West Indy Co-op. It's a co-op of food service departments throughout the Marion County. Their board has taken bids and approved these bids, but the State Board of Accounts requires our board to approve those bids as well. So we're recommending that the board accept the recommendations from the West Indy Co-op and approve the bids as presented. And you can see all the bids on there if you want, but there's one page that's kind of a nice summary if you would rather just look at it, kind of a summary sheet.
And that's several in, I'm looking at it here.
Yeah, it's like page 8 or 9,
Yeah.
I think.
Do I have any comments or questions? Dr. Long, I'm assuming with the co-op, we're able to get even more competitive pricing since we're going at it together and ordering larger quantities?
And fortunately, they let us play at the big kids table. These are like really big schools like Pike and Ben Davis and everything, and Carmel. So they've allowed us to be involved in this co-op for our food service purchases, and yeah, we get a better price than we would if we did them on our own.
I wouldn't downplay us. We're still 6A.
I know.
We compete with them in everything.
Even food
Robotics,
services.
show
Our kids can
choir,
eat as good as
Even
sports,
food services.
band. So I'm glad we're accepted in food services, even though we compete with them in everything else. Any additional questions or comments? Can I hear a motion?
I move that we accept the bids from West Indy Co-op for food services as presented.
All those, or I'm sorry, can I hear a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Alexander, Mrs. Toomey. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Next, we're moving to the consideration of a lease purchase agreement for portable classrooms. Dr.
Get
Long,
no introduction?
should I call you by something else?
No, that's good.
Dr. Long, would you please enlighten
Thank
us?
you.
Go sit down and walk.
Yeah, no, thank you. So, as you know, in the past, before we built Walnut Grove, we leased several portable buildings. Mr. Thompson has done a little bit of research and has found a place that they're brand new, and we have the opportunity to lease to own, and we can spread it out over a time period where it almost becomes nearly the same cost as the lease, that we can lease to own them. These are I like these buildings because they're 4 classrooms and the interior is set up, or there's an interior hallway, so book bags and cubbies can be set up outside of that and not take the place of the classroom. We need these at Sugar Grove Elementary, so we'll place them there originally, but as we move along and we see growth throughout the community, we'll have the opportunity to move them to maybe one of the middle schools or at the high school whenever when that need comes. But we think they'll be at Sugar Grove for at least 2 or 3 years as we work on the renovations there at the school. Plus, they've got a lot of growth as well.
Thank you, Dr. Long. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
How many do you anticipate purchasing?
It's really one, but it's set up, it has 4 classrooms inside of it, so it's one unit that has 4 classrooms.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I guess, Dr. Long, I know we anticipate growth, we expect growth, we see new houses going up. If we don't get the growth, we're still committed to these portables, correct?
Correct, yeah, and we can still use them, we can set them up. That's the nice thing, is we can move them to wherever we won't need them at the time, and we always seem to be pressed for some sort of space.
So with that, if one elementary needs 2 and another needs 2, we can split these up, or is this?
You
a-
could,
a
they're meant to
4-unit
be
period?
as a unit of 4.
Okay.
So we'd
But
lose
it
the
could be.
hallway, or we would?
We would lose the hallway if we did that, yes.
Just, we don't know numbers.
Right.
And just so I understand it, it says it's a term of 48 months, so at the end of the 4 years, we would own them and then move them, do
Then
what we
can-
want with them?
Right, then we can put them wherever we want.
What's the useful life of a portable?
The ones that Hunt are using are probably 18 to 20 years old.
Do we expect that, though, out of classroom portables with kids beating them up? and-
I think these will be better because those have been moved numerous times, and so they don't go together as well. I don't see us moving these around as much, so I think we would get, we would probably get 15 years or so, maybe longer.
And if we just leased it, I'm assuming then it'd be a little less now, but then we'd just be out that money and we wouldn't have them at the end?
Correct.
Any other questions or comments? Can I hear a motion?
I move that we approve the lease purchase agreement for from Satellite Shelters, Inc. for portable classrooms as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Mr. Russell, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you.
Dr. Long,
Last one for a little bit.
we're
Get
going to
sit down
consider
for a
the
second.
radio system upgrade agreement.
So we've been working with ERS Wireless Managed Services for a long time. They've been doing all of our radios. We're required by the FCC to convert everything to digital by the end of 2020. So we need to reach an, asking you to let us enter into this agreement where they upgrade our repeater systems. They're used by the schools, maintenance, transportation, police, and fire departments. It also includes the reprogramming of over 300 radios that we own in the school corporation. And they allow us to spread this out over the time period. They have a service agreement with us then if the radios break or any issues. But we're due to replace those repeaters really right away, so we're in compliance, and they work with all the other radio systems.
Remind me, Dr. Long, was this one of the findings of our safety audit?
It was a long time ago that we added, from that safety audit, we added repeaters, and now we just need to convert them to
Need to convert them
digital.
and upgrade
Right, they're old enough now that they're kind of at the end of their lifespan anyway, but we have to go to digital. But yeah, the safety audit recommended, because then the fire departments and police departments can talk into some of the areas that are difficult, especially the high school.
Correct. Okay.
Any other questions or comments with respect to the upgrades to the radio system? Hearing none, may I hear a motion?
I move that we approve the managed services agreement with ERS Wireless for the radio system upgrade.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander and Mr. Russell. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Dr. Long?
Thank you.
We'll ask you to find your way back to your
Thank
seat.
you.
Now we need Jason Taylor music. Man, he should have played something on his laptop. Classic.
Next, we'll consider the bid for audiovisual technology updates for high school classrooms, and this time it's Mr. Jason Taylor.
I don't know if I can be as entertaining as Dr. Long was. I apologize. But,
It's not a very high bar.
moving on.
Tough crowd.
Yeah, rough crowd in there.
Sorry, Dr. Long.
It's okay. On June 11th, 2020, we opened 4 bids for classroom audio visual technology for the high school. This coincides with the high school renovation that's currently taking place. It would bring the audio visual systems up to date, would replace them with equipment very similar to what we did in our elementary schools last year. After a thorough analysis of the bids by the committee, we're recommending accepting the bid from CCS Presentation Systems in an amount of $655,322.75. We believe this to be the most responsible and responsive bidder based off the attached rubrics. The deployment will begin in July and is expected to complete over the next really year as the high school renovation. As you know, they're kind of going hall by hall, so they'll be installed as those classrooms reach completion. It was a close bid. We had 2 bidders. We're actually taking the one that was just slightly more, but outperformed the other vendor on the rubric, and provided the specific equipment that we requested to be in line with what we have at the elementary schools. So, any questions?
Do I hear any questions?
When you say audio visual,
Yeah.
is it the TV that's in the room? And the
Yeah.
equipment that turns it
Yeah, just
on
kind
on
of,
the wall and all that?
exactly. Just to kind of separate it from our, Wi-Fi and our computers. It's the television. It's also a speaker in the classroom. We were not going to do lapel mics at the high school, but we did go ahead and include those. It was not much of a cost increase, and if and when our teachers are wearing masks and teaching, we really need a mic closer to their face than what a webcam can do. So we're going to keep those in the project.
Just curious what happens to all those TVs we have?
They have projectors in these rooms, and most of them were dying off. We kept the best of what there was, and we will use those. The middle schools still haven't been replaced, so we use those to refresh the middle schools when they kind of die. Lifespan on a projector is not nearly as long as a TV for us, so,
So the projector that's hanging
yeah.
is being replaced?
Being removed and replaced with a TV, and this would be wall mounted. And it's gonna be on a mount that would allow teachers not only to teach from it, but to raise it and present if they're doing a video of some sort.
Oh, okay.
So very similar to elementary.
And Mr. Taylor, I just want to make sure, 96 on a rubric is wonderful.
Yes.
So shows you're impressed with the bid that came in.
Yeah, they've done a nice job. This is a company that actually installed some of our original multimedia systems. It's been a partner for a while. Honestly, 3 of the 4 companies up there we do business with regularly, so it was pretty stiff competition this year.
Well, and a 91's not bad either. And I mean, when the dollars are that close.
Yeah.
Please explain to me again why we chose to, I mean, it's a few $100s more, but why we chose a few $100s more?
More than anything, it was, we actually asked for specific types of equipment to match what we have at the elementary schools. We wanted the same audio system and the same manufacturer on the TV. It just lets us support it consistently across the district. That's really that difference. The other components.
So is it fair to say it'll actually save us money in the long run?
Oh, very, very much.
With
yeah.
labor
we could-
and cables or whatever we need, parts, because we have
Yep.
similar equipment as
Exactly.
opposed to.
Familiarity with buildings and equipment.
Exactly. And that's what we're trying to do across the board is standardize.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Can I hear a motion?
I move that we accept the bid from CCS Presentation Systems in the amount of $655,323.75 for the audiovisual technology for the high school classrooms. And Dr. Gabriel, make sure you get the 75 cents on the check.
Do I hear a second, as long as it includes 75 cents?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander, Mr. Hubbard. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'll ask for Dr. Paul Gabriel to give a presentation relating to financing of Pleasant Grove Building Project. Dr. Long, we're still waiting for the music.
Oh, it's a tag team effort.
That music would have given you the higher rating on the entertainment value.
I'm thinking the theme song to The Odd Couple.
Oh, you're fine, okay. So tonight, we want to talk to you about the renovation project at Pleasant Grove Elementary School. Just to remind everybody, Pleasant Grove was built in 1987 and still hasn't been renovated. Our goal is to renovate our buildings sometime between year 20 and year 25, and we're now entering year 33 since it opened. We did do a small addition and a little bit of renovation back in 2013, but we didn't really renovate any of the classrooms that haven't been touched yet. So for the 2019-20 school year, our enrollment was about 645 with an ideal capacity of about 680 students. So we'll talk a little bit then about what our needs were. Mr. Kelly asked that he be allowed to meet with all of his teachers. So these are the teachers and groups of people that he met with, had several conversations back and forth with our architects. He shared his meeting notes with the architects as they kind of worked back and forth to help design what needed to be done at his building. So some of the issues that we found, that we needed to upgrade them to current learning space and programming standards, and we talked about that with the high school, renovating those classrooms that hadn't been touched for a long time. And there's also some facility improvements that would prepare Center Grove, or Pleasant Grove, for some additional growth. We know that at the intersection of Olive Branch and Mullinex Road, there's a proposed subdivision with 197 houses there. Currently, that's in the Pleasant Grove School District, so we want to be a little bit prepared. So our plan is to add a couple of classrooms there, but also do some renovation there as well, which is long overdue, like I mentioned. So we want to do renovate the classrooms so they match what we've done at Center Grove and North Grove and Walnut Grove. That would include some new cabinetry, furniture we already have, paint, carpet, ceilings, lighting, and then we would add 4 additional classrooms to accommodate some growth. And we would convert one of the classrooms to another gang bathroom, because they don't have a restroom near the doors where they go out to recess, and it's something that all of the teachers and Mr. Kelly really said they desperately needed. The nice thing about this is we can do this while maintaining the current tax rate. Just show you the renovation. It looks better in color. I printed mine in black and white, but you can see the green at the bottom left-hand side are the 4 additional classrooms that we would add. The bathroom, the first classroom just to the right there. I can just walk up there and talk through it instead. So this is a classroom that we would convert to the bathroom right there. And then all the stuff in the light blue are classrooms that we would renovate, and all the corridors also need renovation. We aren't going to touch the office area where we moved the specials, the gym, and because we did do that back about 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago now. So we won't retouch those, but we will touch all the new, the light kind of purpley color classrooms and renovate those.
Which is what?
New carpet, new lights. They'll get tunable lights like we have down at Walnut Grove. They'll have new carpet, new paint, new cabinetry, where they can store their stuff. May relocate their cubbies. Some of them have the cubbies inside just a little bit and they block vision. So we'll touch all of those. And then I think, oh, sorry, there is another part. It's not really part of the renovation at Pleasant Grove, but it's another part of the funding that we're going to do. Yeah. No, I did that. Sorry. I didn't do the, yeah, sorry. Is it in there? Okay, sorry. My pages are out of order.
Okay.
One more.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the financing and the action that we're requesting the board this evening. This is the budget for the Pleasant Grove project. Dr. Long's working with the architect and the construction manager to fine-tune the details on how this is going to work out, and we may have some modifications. This evening we are requesting the board to approve a resolution, and we may have some more additional breakdown or additional details on this at our next board meeting. We realize that this project will probably take another phase to complete, but what we're approving this evening is just $5.17 million to accomplish the things that we can get done for that amount of money. And that's partly based on the fact that, we've made a commitment that we don't have to increase the tax rate to accomplish that. So that's what this project's going to cost. Another part of this, and that's what Dr. Long was talking about, is a miscellaneous project that's going to accomplish a variety of other things. I don't know if you remember, as a board, about a year and a half ago, you asked Dr. Long about maintenance issues that he felt were not being done because we didn't have enough budget, and he came up with this list. If you want to make any comments about it.
No, some of them are safety and security. Some of these will help pay for the radio system that we talked about a little bit earlier. Some additional cameras at our elementary schools. 2 fire panels that need to be replaced. The big costs are the chillers and the building controls that need to be replaced. There's another section of roof that needs work at Middle School Central, and then some various concrete repair and replacement throughout the whole corporation.
So these are above the Pleasant Grove?
Yes, these are not part of it.
We're proposing the 2 of these this evening just because it saves a little bit on all the financing and the paperwork behind this. So we're asking the board to approve one resolution for the 2 of these projects together.
And Dr. Gabriel, these will maintain the same tax rate?
Yes.
Including the extra 1.3?
Yes, including both of these are the 2 separate projects we can accomplish without increasing the tax rate. So this evening, we're asking you to
pass a resolution for these two projects, and it's quite lengthy. We have Adam Steerwald here with us this evening. He's the stand-in for Jeff Qualkenbush with Barnes and Thornburg, because Jeff couldn't make it tonight if we have any technical questions. But what I've done on this slide is to summarize the key points of the resolution that we're asking the board to approve this evening. Section 1 simply states that that the need exists for these two projects. Section 2 introduces the concept of using the building corporation to accomplish the financing. Section 5 is the part that says that the board will sell bonds that total $5.17 for the Pleasant Grove and $1.3 million for the multi-facility project. Section 8 says that the board approves the draft form of the lease and the plans and the estimates. And then the Section 9 says that the board will hold a 1028 hearing at the next meeting on June the 23rd for the Pleasant Grove project. And we'll provide some additional financing information at that meeting. In the interest of just presenting similar data that we do at each of these hearings, I'd like to present this slide as we talk about when we say we won't have to increase the tax rate to accomplish these two projects. We've kept the tax rate below $1.04 since 2009, and we would anticipate staying below that number as we finance these two projects that will start in, the payments for them will start in 2021. And then just to show people how we relate, we typically show this information. This has been updated since we presented this to the board the last time, but this just shows you where the Center Grove tax rate relates to the other schools in the county, and this is just the school rate. It's not the total rate that a taxpayer would see, which would obviously vary from location to location. So that concludes our presentation this evening, and we would ask the board to approve the resolution that they've been provided with.
Any comments or questions with respect to the Pleasant Grove renovation project?
I guess just a clarification, Dr. Yearby, I thought I heard you say at the June 23rd meeting, I think that's the July 23rd meeting.
Yes, I'm sorry, yeah, I might have read it wrong. It does say July 23rd on the slide.
That's okay, I just
Yeah.
want to make sure.
Right, next month.
Because I didn't have a meeting for next week on my calendar.
Right.
Are we seeing the borrowing rates drop any? Are they holding steady? Jeff didn't tell you you're gonna get questions, did he?
I'm not sure I can fully answer that, but we are selling a lot of bonds everywhere else in the state, so I believe that, the market's ticking in the right direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
We work with Mike Shoemaker with Stiefel on that, and he's the one that could give you a
Sorry,
half-hour
I asked
answer
the
to
wrong-
that
I asked the
question.
wrong answer to that question. Sorry.
Just see if you're quick on your feet.
Yeah, and we've been in discussions with him, and he says that the markets continue to look very good.
Okay.
We are, that's part of, on this project, what we will present next month. I think we're using 5%, and
That's more what I was after, sorry, wrong.
yeah,
wrong
and-
entity I was asking.
and we may get it at half that rate, just depending on how the markets sit, but they're looking very well right now. So,
Any other comments or questions? I guess I have a couple. I guess I do always appreciate the slide that you show us about the impact on the tax rate.
yeah.
And I appreciate you showing us that, we don't anticipate there to be one. And I also want to clarify that what you're asking for now, in essence, is to advance to round 2.
Pardon me?
To advance to round 2, which is next week, the 1028
Yes.
hearing.
That's correct, yes.
So we're not approving it tonight, we're just approving it to move to the 1028 hearing.
That's correct, right.
And I guess I would encourage anyone who has comment to be here for the 1028 hearing.
Next week, next month.
And let
yeah.
us know what those comments are.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, I do appreciate the effort. I don't doubt the building needs renovations.
Yeah.
1987 was a long time ago. Any other questions or comments? Can I hear a motion?
I move that we adopt a resolution approving the form of the lease with the Center Grove multi-facility building corporation. I can't seem to get my.
Can I hear a second? Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Mr. Hubbard, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you.
Dance around.
I think it's probably the same two,
duo.
isn't it? Dr. Long and Dr. Gabriel, now we're going to hold the first of two 1028 hearings with respect to a preliminary determination of improvements at Sugar Grove Elementary School.
Thank you.
You really should open it.
Oh, I apologize. I guess that's why it's here, right?
Makes this part of the record of the hearing.
That's why this is here, right? I thought it was a paperweight. The evening's board meeting has been appropriately advertised as a 1028 preliminary determination hearing presented by Dr. Paul Gabriel, Chief Financial Officer, and Dr. Bill Long. I hereby open the 1028 hearing. Thank you, Dr. Gabriel.
Thank you. Just to remind everybody, just like we did with Pleasant Grove, Sugar Grove Elementary was built in 1996. Hasn't been renovated since we opened the building. Again, we try to open or renovate sometime between years 20 and 25, and we've hit year 24. For the 2019-20 school year, our enrollment was 696 K through 5 students, and we had 124 preschool students with an ideal capacity of only 774. So we're that's why we asked earlier for you to approve putting a portable there. Our preschool program is growing significantly. We need space to be able to house them. And just as a reminder to everybody, our preschool program is a developmental preschool program for our students with IEPs, and then we try to get them into our school, and we're required to have it, and we try to get them into school prior to kindergarten and to work with them to help them be ready developmentally when they start kindergarten. So it's good for us that we're having more and more kids in there, but it creates a capacity issue at Sugar Grove. This time, the architect and the principal met with all of the teachers and the guidance counselors and everybody to develop what the needs were. Lancer and Beebe was in our building several times, meeting with these groups, met with us, met with our maintenance department and all the staff in the school to kind of develop what the needs were, including our special ed administrative team. We identified these groups down into 4 categories: health and safety, academic growth, stewardship, and facility improvements. We improved some safety and security. We upgrade the facilities, just like we talked about at Pleasant Grove. They'd get new carpet, new lights, new paint, tunable lighting like we have in all the other elementary buildings. Prepares some growth for the developmental preschool, but it also prepares growth for Sugar Grove and in any type of enrollment. In the next slide, you see I listed the same subdivision, the Olive Branch and Mullinex Road, 197 houses, only because at some point in time, probably long after I've retired, they're going to have to do some redistricting. So those houses will come into play. But also the plans for phase 2 at the Gables, it's an apartment complex behind Target, if you know where that is. We've been getting lots and lots of kids out of that. And so we know when they develop the second phase, we'll continue to get more students out of that. And those students feed into Sugar Grove Elementary. So we need some space to be able to prepare for a little bit of room. Like the last project, we can't address all of the recognized issues in one project. We're going to try to get as much as we can possibly get there. We'd renovate the classrooms, add some safety features, reclaim gym space for the LGI, expand the old LGI into the cafeteria, and add a gymnasium for future use. And then, like we did with the other elementary schools, that puts the gymnasium at the end of the building where outside visitors don't need to go through the middle of the school to get to that point, and we'll be able to secure that area off from the rest of the school. Some of the added safety features that we talked about there, some video surveillance, additional door monitoring, some one-way security screening. I'd probably change the office area there where it's better suited for visitors. You know, it's a cramped office. It's not set up for the kind of screening that we need to do for safety, and so we'll change that around as well. The next slide shows, again, kind of that light blue or kind of purple, the classrooms that we would renovate. The darker shade on the far right-hand side would be parts of the next project where we would add on. We know at this point in time, we're at or near our capacity for sewers at Sugar Grove. And so we're kind of trying to phase this and time this where we meet Greenwood's expansion of their sewers with our need to expand the classroom. So we really feel like adding the gym gives us a place to move kids around. This current gym in there doesn't have space to get all the students together. So we would repurpose that space into the LGI, repurpose the LGI into expanding the cafeteria, and then renovate all the classrooms and the hallways like we talked about at Pleasant Grove. And you can see on there, there's some additional parking that's vastly needed there as well. So we'll do as much as we can do with the money that Dr. Gabriel can get us, and he's going to talk a little bit about the money, but we know that we can exceed the $15.9 million. So we'll do everything that we can do to spend every single penny of that.
Because of the size of this project, the legal steps that we need to go through are different, and so this is actually a 1028 hearing tonight, and there will be no action taken by the board. Then we'll have a second 1028 hearing at the July 23rd board meeting, and that's when the board will take action. The financing of this project, you can see the $15.9 million. And again, Bill is working with the architect and the construction manager to refine these estimates, and in terms of exactly how much we'll get done, we won't really know until we've got bids received. In terms of the information that we present at a 1028 hearing, Barnes & Thornburg provides us with all of this data, and I think there are two important things on here from my perspective. The third bullet from the bottom says that if this project was the only thing we were doing at all, it would impact the tax rate by 9.27 cents. So that kind of gives you a idea of the size of this project. But because of other things that are falling off the tax rate over time, that's what allows us to make that statement in red at the bottom, and that is that our overall school tax rate will not increase due to the repayment of the bonds on these projects. The next two slides you're going to get tired of seeing, but they're the same ones you just looked at. One describes the tax rate that we are anticipating we'll be able to maintain with this project, and the second one shows the relationship of how we relate to the other schools in the county. So with those comments, I would turn this back to the president for public comment as part of the public hearing.
Thank you, Dr. Long. Thank you, Dr. Gabriel.
Now that the presentation's been concluded, this is the appropriate moment to ask if anybody from the public has anything to say at the 1028 hearing on the Sugar Grove renovation. Seeing no one for public comment, I now will turn it over to the board members for any comments or questions.
I just, it does worry me, the timing of this project. I don't doubt at all the building needs what he's talked about. I have a great niece in the preschool program. So I've been in and around this building over the years. It's just timing, just is a concern of mine. We still don't know what this fall's gonna look like. Yes, the governor is fully funded for this year. but we don't know what the next 2 years after this year looks like funding-wise. So it's just concerns I have when we start talking about where all these payments are gonna come from. I understand some things are falling off.
Yes.
But until they fall off, all these payments gotta be made. So it's just concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Does anyone else have any comments? Dr. Gabriel, I just want to, we talk about falling off the tax rate, and just for clarity, what you're referring to is some debts being paid off.
Right.
As other debts being taken on. So
Yes.
falling off means, our rate's not going up because we've paid certain obligations off.
Right.
And now this is a new obligation to take its place, which allows us to keep a steady tax rate.
Right, that's exactly right.
And Mr. Russell, I understand where you're coming from with so many unknowns right now, and I agree with you, the buildings need it. And I would once again say, if anybody of the public has anything to say, we'll have a second round of hearings at 10:28. We'd love to hear from you. Any other comments or questions? There's no action to take tonight, so I do appreciate the presentation. I know, everyone sees the presentation. They don't know the time, effort, and energy your group, Dr. Long, Dr. Gabriel, and everyone else that puts into these. So I do appreciate that. And I know the rest of the board does and the community does too. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I hereby close the 10:28 hearing. Thanks, Pam. Now with the action items being accomplished, this is generally the time we go around and ask if there are any further comments from anybody on the board. I'm going to actually start this time. We usually end with Dr. Arkanoff, but I'm going to start with Dr. Arkanoff first by thanking him for all that he's doing for the community through his coffee chats. I get a lot of positive feedback. I know I participated in one of them with him, but he's done a great job moving them to an online forum, and the numbers of people participating have gone up. And if anybody out there has any questions of what's going on with planning and the like, please watch these coffee chats. They're wonderful. Do you want to tell them a little more about those?
Sure.
And kind of what the intent and where they can find them online if they missed one?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I couldn't do it without Stacy. She pulls it all together and makes it look great. And, of course, you can go to our website, and if you go to the Superintendent's tab, you'll find a link to Coffee Chats. But it is our website/Coffee Chat. So that's how you can find them. You'll find all the previous ones, all the recordings. She also does a nice job of taking all the Q&A and transcribing it and putting it into written format so people can go through that. We have slowly increased to a significant number of people. When we started doing these physically, to have 2 or 3 people show up at Jack's Donuts was, great.
A crowd?
It was a crowd, yeah. And on occasion, on one rare or 2 occasions, you might have 8 or 10 people. When we moved to COVID and we started doing these virtually, the first couple of times we had about 40 or 50, and we were thrilled. And then the next thing you know, we had about 100 or 100 and so. And today we ended up with a registration number of 588 people.
Wow.
Now, what I will.
Attendance went up after Mr. Daniels wasn't presenting, so.
Well, yeah, when we stopped having him on the
Well,
group.
just
the numbers
for the
shot.
record, I wouldn't say I
Yes.
was presenting. Dr. Arkanoff kept me on a very short leash. When he wanted to hear from me, he allowed me to speak. But go ahead. I
Yeah,
apologize.
absolutely. And so it's been great. Today, we processed 150 questions, maybe.
That's fabulous.
And I gotta give, respect and props, as they say, to the team, both back there, Mr. Taylor, Mrs. Hoover, and Dr. Long all sat in and answered questions. We fired them off, we answered them. In previous ones, around graduation, we had Dr. Henderson on, and he answered questions. And so it's just a really fun format for us. We're able to answer a lot of questions, have conversation. We can pull people in, which was fun. We did that when you were on, and we can pull people in to the conversation. And so I've enjoyed it. We get today was really a good opportunity for just giving folks kind of an overview of what we're thinking for the start of the school year. And so we shared about, coming back on time, trying to make as little changes as possible, and the fact that we're going to be in person and trying to do everything we can to provide a safe environment while making, making the least amount of changes and giving parents the consistency and the kids the consistency that we can. So we talked about that, got great parent feedback. Channel 59 picked that up today, and so we ended up having a Channel 59 interview. So I don't even know if they ran that, Stacy, or not, but yeah. And then we had good conversation with them about that. And so we got to talk a lot today about just parents' concerns, and that's really what we needed to do. And we just need to start that conversation. What's going to happen next is we're going to refine our plans, tighten those up, have conversations. Nora's working with the Teachers Association and all the teachers on our academic plan, and Bill is working on all of the logistics with his departments from transportation, food services, and our facilities, and they're tightening that up. And then, of course, Mr. Taylor is just catching himself coming and going with dealing with all the human resource issues around it. So all of those things coming together, and then Stacy, of course, makes us look brilliant as she just pushes it out on the communication. And Dr. Gabriel pays for it all. So that's how it works, and it seems to be going really well. And so on July 9th, we hope to be able to present to the community our final plan.
Great.
They'll have time to really consider it, and then we're going to ask for, I like to call it an RSVP. We want parents to commit to one or the other, the in-person or our virtual program, for one semester at a time. And the reason we're going to ask for that one semester at a time is for staffing. That will help us hire staffing. And as Mr. Alexander and I talked about, and he shared out, it's really important that parents understand why we need that, because if we have students, if we have 100 students decide not to come to school physically and we lose them, that's $600,000 or so from the state, if not more, that we lose financially. So we want to be able to maintain a program for those students and also keep our budget whole. So that's where we're at right now, and the coffee chats have just been fantastic venue to engage people.
And I thank you for your efforts.
Yeah.
Like I said, I get nothing but positive comments from those, and I know it's the team that behind you that helps do that and many times participates. So thank you for the update. And I think it's important too, what you shared this morning, the fact that if we can go back traditional, we're not going to force anybody to be there live.
That's correct.
If someone believes that they're not comfortable and they want to do it virtual, we'll figure it out.
We'll have that option.
So I think that's fabulous for you and your team to be able to do that.
Yeah, we're working absolutely hard. And one thing to make clear too is the calendar. So if you're planning on taking fall break, our goal is to stick to the calendar. So unless the state tells us otherwise, plan your fall break vacation or,
Great. Great.
those different vacations.
Thank you, Dr. Arkloff.
Yeah.
Mr. Russell, do you have anything? Oh, I'm sorry, on that coffee chats, are there any other
I
comments?
just had a question. Are you gonna, you and Stacy talked about continuing the coffee chats virtually like this to keep the attendance up? Or?
Yeah, we've talked about it, and we may kind of toy with the idea of doing a combo where we'll go maybe to Strange Brew and we'll engage in both physical and so when the timing's right. But right now we're probably going to continue virtual as long as we have to. And yeah,
I didn't get an opportunity to sit in this morning, but is there anything that kind of pops out at you that maybe you got a question or something brought to your attention that something you guys hadn't thought of that a community member or a parent might have brought to your attention?
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was anything that we hadn't thought about that was asked. I'm not sure that was the case.
Not to put you on the spot.
No, good question. We did have a lot of good conversation, a lot of feedback and bouncing back and forth. I think the biggest issue and the interesting issue is the issue of masks. And so, we shared out that at this moment in time, we are highly encouraging people to wear masks, all people, all students, but we're not requiring it. We're not going to discipline, individuals for not wearing masks. And so there's a little controversy over that right now. So we're giving that a little time to process. And who knows, the state may turn around and tell us to do something completely different. So, yeah.
Any other questions for Dr. Arkanoff about coffee chats?
No, I was able to attend the first 30 minutes this morning, and I liked the simple slide format. It just gave you the talking points. It wasn't like everybody was settling in for a long 30 minutes PowerPoint presentation, and it was just, I personally liked,
Thanks.
unfortunately, I can only hang around for 30 minutes this morning, but I like the format.
Great, thanks, and Stacy puts that
I
together.
think you hit your all-time record, wasn't it 2 hours this morning? Did I hear?
We went over, but we had an hour and a half planned, and I think we might have went an hour and 45-ish.
Well, the kudos were, and they did it for 2 hours. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, I was gonna go to announcements next.
I was just gonna say
so.
kudos to the coffee chat this morning, but a strong caveat to everyone. We just do not know what, as I refer to as downtown, the governor and so forth, and IDOE will do in a matter of 24-hour turnaround that could blow all this out of the water. So I just want the community to be aware of that the best laid plans just could be blowing up, and admin's got to go back to figuring things out again. So patience is going to be the name of the game here, even after school opens, that things could just change over a weekend with that. So, and with that, kudos to the community that has really handled this, from what I've seen and heard, wonderfully. So hopefully we can continue to do that if things get blown away on that one. I don't want to be bad news there, but it's just something that we all have to keep in mind. We still are under the thumb of what could happen, and then we've got to change everything overnight with that. On other things, just a reminder, the care pantry of the alternative school is open this summer, every Friday. They're doing it on an outside situation. And just a kind of a sad note, the alumni we honored at the football game homecoming passed away yesterday. Sam Tinkle. I was so glad we did it. He enjoyed that like he was a teenager.
Mr. Tinkle was over 100 years old, right?
I don't think he made 100. I think he was 97 last fall, but I'll have to check on that.
We should all be so lucky.
Oh, he was, like I said, he was like a teenager that night.
That's great. Mr. Hubbard, do you have any announcements?
Stacy had a birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday, Stacy.
Sweet 16.
That's all I got.
Mr. Alexander, do you have any additional comments?
I don't have any additional comments other than I've received a lot of positive feedback for not just the admin team, but for the board, for especially you, Mr. Daniels, for all the work you've put in. During these trying times, my best suggestion to all the community members as they're asking questions about schools going to start and those kinds of things, all I can ask everybody is to be flexible. We're reacting to it just as much as everybody else is, and if I can give one piece of advice, expect the unexpected, and we'll come up with a plan and roll with the punches.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. And I do want to re-thank the administration. I can't say it enough, because the time, the effort, the planning, the replanning, the consideration, the reconsideration, it makes this guy look good, sitting next to me, named Mr. Arkanoff, Dr. Arkanoff, sorry. And it makes the rest of us look good. When we have a good team effort, that's what makes this place go. So, it reflects when the community sees a 2-hour coffee chat to let them know what's going on. So thank you, everyone. Mrs. Toomey, do you have any announcements?
Not at this time. Thank you to our architect being here this evening to kind of listen to what's going on, and we thank you for your representation.
Thank you. Dr. Arkanoff, do you have any other comments?
Last thing, in the coffee chat, we really wanted to get to one other topic, but we just got so pressed for time answering everybody's questions, and that is, the growing topic on racial inequalities and the racial conversation that we want to have as a school corporation. So I just want to share that Stacy and Bill, Dr. Long, are working together. We are putting together a task force. We've had a decent number of individual staff members reach out to us to really want to engage in this conversation. And we've also then had parents and students. So we're looking at putting together a task force that's, we're going to begin the conversation and talk about Center Grove in particular, in White River Township, and how we can grow as a community and support and encourage, embracing our heritage, and the issues that are happening in America right now around racial inequalities and so forth. And so just really proud of the folks and our staff that have reached out and said, hey, we need to engage in this conversation and talk about things that are going on. So Dr. Long volunteered to do that and put that together, and so he's going to take that, and
Great.
we'll all be a part of it. So.
And I would encourage, I guess, a special coffee chat at someday on that issue.
Absolutely.
Yes.
After the
That would be
task force
great.
is formed with updates and plans and where we're going. So that's great to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
My only last comment is to remind everybody, the next board meeting is July 23rd, 7 o'clock, right here. And I ask everybody to have a happy and safe month. Let's get back to the new normal the best we can. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Alexander, Mrs. Toomey. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Ayes have it, 5-0. We're adjourned.
Thank you.